Okay, now comes the good advice part.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so anybody who's watching this who's just starting out in metal clay, of any of the metal clays, whether it's copper, brass, or not brass, but bronze or
Yeah.
copper, what would you give them as advice or encouragement?
Well, when I started out, there were not a lot of books available, and now it's the whole metal clay world has just blossomed. So there are many good books out if you live in a part of the country where you just can't get access to a teacher. Hadar Jacobson's books, I think, are really particularly nice. Jackie Trudy has written a book. She's the head of Art Clay World, and has written a book that's really very helpful in terms of resources. I think it really helps if you can find a class, just because it sort of cuts down a little bit on some of the experiences where you have to just toss something aside. Although the one beauty part of working with metal clay is usually you can do something to fix it. One of my mantras is there are no mistakes in metal clay, because you can refire it. You can add or subtract things. There's actually been very little that I haven't been able to find a use for one way or the other. And a few things have gone back to the refinery because there just really wasn't anything. But so I think it's nice to know, first of all, that you can fix whatever if you find a problem with it. When I was first working in it, they only had silver and gold clays, and at the time, silver and gold were not as expensive as they are now. But since they've come out with the base metal clays, sometimes it would be nice to be able to just start with the base metal clay, so you can kind of get your feeling for working with the clay, and then move on to silver. Although I think starting with silver is just fine too. I have particularly like working with the Art Clay Copper. I've also worked with some of Hadar Jacobson's clays, and I like them very much. I think mostly is just keep playing with it. And I think that's true of any medium.
Right.
The more time you spend in it, the more you learn about it, and the more adventures you have with it. And, so I think mostly just keep doing it.
Okay. Yeah. So,
and there are conferences, I should say, also. Both Art Clay World and Precious Metal Clay put on conferences every other. They take turns every other summer, and those are wonderful also.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun as well as very informative.
Yeah.
But I just have to emphasis on fun.
Yeah.
One coming up soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you get started, do you have a plan?
It's interesting. Sometimes, yes, I'll have something that's been rattling around in my head, and I can kind of just see it. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but I'm going to be teaching class this weekend based on extruding tubes of silver metal clay and then decorating the tubes. And I'm really fascinated by all the different kinds of things that we can do with extrusion. So, one thing kind of is leading to another. Okay, so I made this necklace. Okay, what else can I do with this? And I think there's a lot of possibilities with that. I guess maybe I could say with this necklace, this is my protector necklace. I started out with this one with just the face, which is carved by a guy named Gary Wilson, and it's jasper. And I've had it for a year maybe before I even started, figuring out what I wanted to do with it. But that happens to me a lot, where I'll have one thing that I want to work into a piece, and so that's the starting inspiration. Then I just kind of keep playing.
Right.
And this necklace actually took 2 to 3 years to really complete, because I started out just by making the part that holds the stone, and I knew I wanted to have a dangle off of it, and I knew that this was going to be about creativity and about protection, and so I came to think of having, I've seen a lot of African art, and brushes a figure in African art, and of course the paintbrush figures across the world, but this had a sort of certain tribal quality to me, so I decided to include part of a paintbrush in it. I was very interested in hinges, and I knew I wanted to have movement and articulation,
Right.
so I made a bead and attached a hinge to it, and I didn't even had not put the hematite on it, and that's where it stood for a little while. I came back to it, and so I wore it on a chain. And then I came back to it, and I decided that it needed the hematite on this. And I had other stones that were made by Gary Wilson. And what I found is that the pieces that I think work the best are the ones that have meaning for me. You know, it's not that I think of, well, this is what I want to say. It's just that as I'm building it, I discover meaning. So I knew that I wanted to well, we had talked about this before. So the next thing I did was make a clasp. Right. And to do that, just for this one piece, I made a mold of this face and used part of that mold as the toggle bar for the toggle clasp. And I also, I studied with Celia Fago, who's just amazing, and she taught me how to carve my own texture plates. So all the textures that I used in this were my textures as well.
Wow.
And so I knew I needed beads that would echo the bead that was on the top of the pendant. And I knew that I had collected some other beads that Gary Wilson had made, and I knew I wanted to incorporate those. So I made the 4 of the beads that echoed what was going on top of the pendant. And then I knew I wanted to make 2 special beads that would have some relationship to art and creativity. So I made this bead, and it has a hand with a leaf and a tiny little sparkly red stone, and on the front, and that represents to me, working with your hands. And the leaf is a very important shape for me, and the whole sense of growth and renewal and that kind of thing. And then on the back, I put a heart and an eyes to say "see with your heart." Which I think is to me means a lot. On the other side, I had a coin from Bhutan, and they make the most beautiful money. And I knew I wanted to incorporate that because you need to have a certain amount of money in order to be able to move beyond your basic needs to make art.
Right.
So, and also Bhutan, I think, national culture of happiness. And now I'm not sure exactly. I don't know a lot about Bhutan, but I like that idea of having a culture of happiness. So that was kind of cool. Good. And on the back, I just I put just another piece of that was textured that I had made. So this is kind of the passageway towards being able to create. And then I also included some ancient coral that Steve had bought for me for a present one year. This is a glass bead from Venice, and it's an eye bead, so it's a protector bead. It was made in probably the 1500s. Wow! And I have this is a bronze bead from the Roman era, and there's also, of course, I can't find it right now, but there's also a piece of Roman era glass on the necklace as well. Because I like ancient things, and things that have the patina of time. Right. So, the works that mean the most to me, the meaning comes along. I discover it as I go.
Oh, that's very cool. That is very cool. I'm really glad you shared that, because I had seen this necklace before, and you told me about the face, but I didn't realize that there was so much meaning in the beads, and also I didn't realize that in your design you had repeated the same pattern 5 times. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And now that I look at it, I see the pattern, but before I didn't. Oh, that's really nice. And I guess it's because of all the different textures that you've put in there. Right? Yeah. Yeah. That's really wonderful.
Oh, thank you.
Jonna, I appreciate your time today.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us.
I love talking jewelry.
And we're so glad you're the featured artist.
Oh, I was very honored to be asked. Thank you, Tess.
Thank you.
And I really admire what you're doing with the magazine. see it. And one of the wonderful things that your magazine is doing is that there are many people who live in isolation, where they can't find a group, and your magazine creates the community, and that's really important. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really it's a labor of love, and Arlie and Lori and myself, we're grateful to be the catalyst to do that. But we truly couldn't do it at all if it weren't for people like yourself, your husband, friends from all those different places who provide the tutorials and the how-tos and let us put it together. So we're very grateful for that. And this is Tess Shea with Metal Clay Today, an online magazine. Of course, you can find us at www.metalclaytoday.com, and we hope you will stop by and see us. And we appreciate Jonna's time, and thank you for visiting with us.